Thank you so much for joining us. I'm glad you could be here. If you were not here last week and you don't know me, I'm France-Luce Benson. I'm the Community Engagement Coordinator for the Fountain Theatre, and I'll be hosting tonight's event. We're going to be offering this as a weekly series, so hopefully you'll come back next week. And it's really just a way for us to connect with you, our audience. We miss you so much. We miss being in the theater and just having your energy and chatting and catching up with you all. So we like to think of this as before the show outside the theater when we all kind of chit chat, or in the cafe during intermission. That's kind of what this is like. And we also have guest performers, and we have two guest performers tonight. We have the poet Keisha-Gaye Anderson, and we have our very own Scott Tuomey, who we know, or most of you might know, as the technical director of the Fountain, but he's also a very gifted musician and performer. So welcome. So I have a little quote that I want to share before we get to our guest. And I actually chose this because this week, I have to admit, there were some moments, particularly in the last couple of days, where I became quite fearful about the future, and I let in some negativity, and it kind of put me in a funk. And it really took just shifting my attention to something positive, really small. I took a bike ride. I'm in a little gated community here. I took a bike ride, and I called a friend, and it completely changed my outlook on everything. And this is a quote by Muji, who's a spiritual guide. He has these great YouTube videos. I love him. And it says, if you go into a room full of light, but outside is darkness, and you open the curtain, that darkness won't come in. But if you go into a room which is dark, and you just open a tiny bit of curtain, it will fill the whole room with light. Such is the power of light. We are this light. So I love that. That just kind of reminds me of like the smallest act of kindness can make such a huge impact, or just me shifting my attention to something can completely change the course of my day. So I just like to think about lightness. So it's time for our first guest. She is a dear friend and a very accomplished, incredibly talented writer, poet, visual artist, mother of two, with a very funny, entertaining daughter. She is Jamaican-born. Last year she was the artist in residence at the beautiful Brooklyn Public Library. She's the author of several books, including Everything is Necessary, Gathering the Waters, Circle Unbroken, and you can read her bio to see her many other accolades. And she's going to share some poetry with us tonight. So welcome, Keisha-Gaye Anderson.
Thank you so much. It's so beautiful to be here. I was so happy to hear from you, and I've been following you as well, and following your accomplishments, and just happy to be gathered with people who love poetry, love art, and and let's just have some fun. How much did you want me to share?
Up to you, but I would say maybe, are they longer poems? Three poems maybe?
Okay.
We can play it by ear. I'm checking the time. So
all right. That sounds good. Okay. So we'll go with something. I think my daughter is lingering over there. She might pop onto the camera at some point, but she's 12, in case you want. I'm going to share a poem that I share often from this book, Gathering the Waters, and it's called I Am the Caribbean. And what it was is just a meditation on the Caribbean, which is just, one of the most, I guess, first globalized places. It's such a crossroads. Everyone's been through there. And I think the special thing about the Caribbean is that since we have so many different ethnic groups and cultures coming together, it's created this culture where, you know, like we still have some ways to go, but race is not the predominant thing. And I think that's what I love about being Caribbean, because it's like a big pot of like, I don't know, delicious food. Okay. I am the Caribbean. In the belly of a ship for supposed nobility, I came this way. From low caste Bombay to Chinese-built railway, I came this way. From Irish town here, poor as the one back there, I came this way. I became that jigsaw piece floating on the archipelago. Too enmeshed to go beyond the gravity of my being, I am the Caribbean. A sweltering pool of disjointed life, each day remaking, reshaping itself into an electric rhythm, skipping from Bata to Tassa to Nyabingi, weaving through me, making me that Kumina sound, that pan melody, that flute in the hills, that shack that brings back, that sound of conviction, of personhood fought for, the independent ardor that we bled to see. I came to be that diasporic medley calling me down to ride through this life, changing shape as I see fit. And though we may forget the names of spirit, we call them viscerally. The Trench Town, Port-au-Prince, Port of Spain, concrete just the same. All repositories of potential energy and stilted memory. I am the Caribbean. So thank you. Yay. All right. I'm gonna share something from my most recent book, which is called Everything is Necessary. And that is me as a little immigrant child. And the idea behind this book was, as you said before, just, you know, putting adversity in perspective and our challenges, putting them in the proper perspective so that we can, you know, try to remain positive and productive instead of getting sucked down into a negative place. And so things are necessary. They may not be comfortable, but you can use them to build you something better. So I think I'm going to read that poem, Everything is Necessary. Everything is necessary, required to be. Is just is. How you see is up to you. Are you pink and green caladium, a field of hearts in bloom, bowing beneath the rust gold gown of a redwood tree? Or are you misery? A spirit cemented to the stone walls of its temple, crumbling and crashing onto every mirror that enters, forgetting that all you are is we, a 1,000-petal flower rocking in the breeze called time. The symphony of lives is merely 1 second, one breath to the great mind, dreaming these colors and every shape that blooms in the galaxies. Your mission is to see, know that this is one cradle, that we are an infant with infinite eyes. We are dancing droplets fallen from the sky that speaks everything into a whirlpool, a black spool of sound that moves us like the ecstasy of lovers becoming one body, one melody. You are to sing until you have no more breath. Enjoy this vantage point now. The only death is insisting that your eyes stay shut. See clearly before time's up. Yay, thank you. I will share one more from this book. Let me see. Yeah. This one is called Ancestors, and we all have those moments where we shake our fists at the sky. And I talk to my late grandmother all the time, and I know she talks back to me, but you know, sometimes I hear things pop into my head, and it would be something that she would say. And so I wrote this poem, and it's sort of their answer to me when I complain about things. You wanted to look into the dark, didn't you? So don't curse these eyes. We gave them to you and sent you to straighten the bends in these steel tracks that link all of our names. Rusted under salt water, buried beneath bundles of cane. Sing songs into candle flame for these bones of mine that now reach through you, stand you into 6 feet of woman. They have not forgotten how to brace against the lash and bend backward for the bembe. Each day we move with you, can't you hear? We are riding the rhythm that beats these words through your center. You beg us to enter, but we never left. We is me, is you, is us, all now together since forever. We laugh and lift your sight towards starshine, seashells, sleeping poetry in every alley and pissed-on corner. We tune your ears to the footfall of predators who stroke their loneliness to the bowline of your lips. You wanted to know, not believe, so see it all here and build a ladder with these visions that lift us up one by one, hand over hand, after birth to under dirt. We listen with you, roll slow up this mountain that needed us to tumble down, break ground, and move things. So listen up. Kill your fear. Open these eyes. Pull us back together and march us home. Thank you. Yay.
That was beautiful. If
Thank
you
you.
want to unmute and give her a little applause, feel free.
All right.
Thank you.
Wonderful.
Thank you.
So much. I want to ask you a few questions, and if you'd like to ask a question to Keisha, you can raise your hand. If you go to where it says participants, you can also, am I muted? Oops. I shouldn't be muted. Can you hear me? Can you all hear me? Yep. Okay. If you'd like to ask Keisha a question, you can go to where it says participants and raise your hand there, or you can just wave and I'll see you. I just want to ask Keisha, when did you know you were a poet? I'm always curious about that when it comes to poets.
I just feel like it was I think metaphors and symbols always attracted me. And so in school, you know, I think when I was like in English class and I was learning poetry and, you know, a real strong English education, I was like, oh, that's the thing that I like to do. I just connected with it. And so it was my go-to form of expression. And actually, you know, I started off drawing. I've returned to drawing. I have some art in an exhibition, but that came much later. That's more recent. But writing was the dominant thing. And the go-to form, I kept a lot of journals, a lot of diaries. I was so dramatic, very dramatic. And I realized I had a knack for it. People liked it. They were like, oh, you should write some more, you know? So I started off writing very like what we learned in school, traditional English poems and sonnets and things. And then you find your own thing and it became more free verse. But I still like sonnets and haikus and, you know, I like everything.
Have you been able to, oh, Simon has a question. Go ahead, Simon.
Oh, you can go ahead. I was just going to ask her which poets thrilled you, influenced you.
Well, you know, early on, I think, okay, I love Maya Angelou early on just because it's sort of like she was the poet. She was like the Black woman poet, right? But as I started to learn and study more, I just love Lucille Clifton is like my favorite. She is my favorite and I just love her. She had 5 children, worked a full-time job, and she won the National Book Award. Like she, you know, she used everything in her life. And that's what I learned. You could turn cooking a meal into a poem, you know, changing a baby's diapers, just motherhood, like anything could be a poem. So that freed me up, just everyday things. I love June Jordan. I love Ntozake Shange a lot. There's just so many. Alice Walker I do like as well. I just like, I don't know, I think I really like free verse and you know, I just like people who make their own forms too. Like Ntozake Shange just made up her own things, which I love. Yeah.
I was going to ask, have you found that you've been able to write during this time, or have you gravitated to other forms of expression?
Well, I do both. So, and this is what I tell everyone, even when I do teach, it's like your artistic practice has to be like brushing your teeth every day for me, because I have children and I live in New York City and I work full time, you know, because I like living here and I like need to keep things going. But it has to be, so it's a part of my daily, like either I draw something or I write something. So I have written, and it's National Poetry Month. So I have a group. Groups help with accountability. So we have a 30, the 30-30, write a poem a day for April challenge. So we have like a private Facebook group where we're sharing our poems. But I have been writing some things, and I just have to get it down, because when is this time going to come magically to do that? So that's how I do things. I really respect, habit is important and is as important as inspiration. But when I do feel inspired, I respect that feeling and I stop whatever I'm doing. And whether it's a napkin or a note card or something or a Post-it note, I write the idea down, because it's like when you have dreams at night, you're not going to remember it.
Mm-hmm.
You won't remember it. Like sometimes you will, but generally you won't. So you just put it on a Post-it note, put it away, you go back to it, and then you work on it.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I love that analogy, like brushing your teeth,
Mm-hmm.
because it really does, sometimes for me, it's just put words on the page,
Have to.
make sense of it later. Yeah.
Yep.
Does anybody else have a question for Keisha? Bill and Betty, and then Scott.
Well, first, Keisha, thank you so much. It's just, the emotion of it, the lyrics of it, the lyrical feel of it. And it makes me, because I do some poetry myself, and I was influenced by great Chicano poet Abelardo and Amiri Baraka, who's wonderful. And I was wondering what music influences the sound of your work or the content of your work, because it's so connected. And I just wonder if there are any musicians that really have inspired the feeling that you convey.
Absolutely. Thank you for that. Music, I love music. Like, I don't know, I just love all forms of art. A lot of times when I'm writing, I do, like my go-to is Coltrane.
Oh,
I don't know. That's just my go-to. Yeah.
Yeah. Can't go wrong.
No, I just put that on and I just go, Yeah. The best.
Thank you for that question.
Mm-hmm.
Scott, you had a question?
They just answered it.
Oh, music.
Yeah.
Well, that's a good segue into music. Thank you again so much, Keisha.
You're
And I
welcome.
think, is tomorrow your birthday?
It sure is.
Happy birthday.
Thank you.
Maybe we'll sing before we go.
Cool.
Sing now,
Thank you.
So our next guest is a musical guest, and some of you might know him or have seen him around the fountain. He's been the technical director at the fountain since 1990. Is that right? That's a long time. That's amazing. But I discovered that he's also a musician and an actor, and he is going to grace us with some tunes tonight. Do you want to tell us what you're going to play?
No, I have no idea. As you were saying, brushing your teeth, my dental hygiene is very poor right now as far as singing goes. Just the stomach stuff I had, it's acid throat, so it's going to be more Tom Waits than, say, Freddie Mercury or something for sure. The, how styles of music seem to fit periods and stuff, as what's going on. You get thematic songs or show tunes, or you get, stuff that's feeling, stuff that's story. I was just thinking about how the different, effect they can have at different times. Not that it's profound or anything. So if you get the blues, that's a feeling, right?
Yeah.
You get musical, a story that, again, everything is feeling in the arts, I assume, or it should be, I guess. So we could get this train wreck starting with a blues piece and just see where it lands, because it's I didn't know it was Flemish till this morning. Can you hear that? In my backyard, it only grows at night. Its branches are all twisted, its leaves are afraid of the light. And the blues, it's a bad dream. It lives inside your head. And when it's lonely in the morning, sometimes you stay right right there in bed. You get the pillow out and cover your head. Like a rolling stone, ever since that night has come to stay. My thoughts, they don't belong. And the blues is a bad dream. It lives inside your head. And when it's lonely in the morning, sometimes you wish that you were dead. That's right, you heard what I said. Just the blues. Yeah. The Flemish world. All right, what other feeling would you like to go with or think about, or story, or everybody sing along? That would be easier, wouldn't it?
I'm open to whatever you got.
I mean, stuff everybody knows is, you know. Seems appropriate for a lot of people right now. I can't sing it for sure. Just yesterday morning, they let me know you were gone. So the plans they made put an end to you. Sing it yourself. Could not find a friend, but I always thought I'd see you again. Now I'm walking my mind, doing easy time, my back turned towards the sun. Lord knows when the cold wind blows, it'll turn your head around. There are hours of time on the telephone line, talking about things to come. Sweet dreams and flying machines in pieces on the ground. And I've seen fire and I've seen rain. I've seen sunny days that I thought would never end. I've seen lonely times good song, sadly done. That's...
Thank you so much. That was beautiful. Thank you so much, Scott. So a couple things. I hope you join us next week and maybe bring a friend. We're going to have actually some musical theater next week. So I hope you can make it. Yeah. And if there's anything that you would like to see here, or if you maybe have a talent and you'd like to participate, please email me. You can email me at franceluce@fountaintheatre.com. I'd love to hear from you. So any suggestions, please feel free to stay in touch. And I'm going to take us out with one more quote that I found. It's by Mason Cooley. It's a really simple, short one. Every day begins with an act of courage and hope. Getting out of bed. So thank you all. I hope to see you all again next week. You don't have to rush off if you want to stay on and chat for a little bit. We can stay on for a few minutes, but I really appreciate you joining us. Thank you.
Thank
See you next week.
Bye, Francis. Thank you.
so
Bye.
much.
Thank you.
Be well, everyone.
Thanks, Scott and Keisha.
All right, take it easy. Thank you.